So for part 2, we will start with metals. Okay, we'll start with metals. So already we know there are three kinds of division. One is metal. Elements are divided into three parts. One is metals, another is non-metal, another is metalloid. Now we will be dealing only with metals. So what is metal? First of all, very difficult to define what is metal. To be very honest. So we can consider there are some properties of metal. So first of all, we will consider those properties which are generally associated with metals. So properties associated with metals. Number one property is metals are ductile. Now, what does ductile mean? Ductile means they can be drawn into wires. Drawn into wires. So if you want to make some wire out of any metal uh, element, you can do that. So they can be drawn into wires. But can all metal be drawn into wires? No, all metal cannot be drawn into wires. There are metals like mercury, which is liquid at room temperature. Mercury is liquid at room temperature. Definitely, you cannot make a wire out of a liquid, right? So mercury cannot be drawn. Next, zinc. Zinc is very brittle. That means it becomes powder. ठीक है ना गुरो गुरो हो जाए. So it's you can write brittle. So if it is brittle and if it is liquid, definitely you can't be able to explore ductility inside that. So this is an exception. If I divide metals and non-metals by the way of ductility, then this is definitely an exception. This cannot be drawn into wires. Okay. So these things are important. So ductility, this property of ductility is important. In which case, suppose aluminium. You have seen aluminium wire in the high tension lines. Then you see copper. Copper wire is used in household electrical wiring. Household electrical wiring. Whereas aluminium is used in generally in high tension lines. HT, high tension lines. High tension means high voltage. Okay. Here tension means basically tension means voltage. So in high voltage lines, we generally use aluminium as for copper for this wiring purposes. Okay. So this is one property. So you can see this property is not universal. Not that all metals will be ductile. Next is another thing that goes with it is malleability. Malleability, another very important property. It means metal is which is a metal which can be beaten into sheets will be called as malleable. Beaten into sheets. Okay, this is malleability. Now, malleable metals, you can see malleable metals as if you want some example will be aluminium. Aluminium can be used as aluminium foils for food packaging, we have seen. Then copper can be beaten into sheets. Copper sheets are available. Then steel is basically a alloy of iron which can be beaten into sheets, but steel is an alloy, not an exact metal, so I'll not write it as an example. But definitely gold, silver, this can be beaten into sheets. Many people in their house has this dishes made out of silver. So if silver would not have been uh, beaten into sheets, you cannot use that silver, right? So it's the malleability property which helps you to make those your plates and all by silver. And some people may have, rich people may have gold plates also. So that can also be explored if the metal is malleable. So definitely gold and silver is malleable. So that is why they are used. Again, the question comes that is there all metals which are malleable? No, all metals are not malleable. Exceptions are there. Here exceptions are simple. Mercury is liquid, so definitely it's not malleable. Cesium is liquid, here cesium will add, it's not malleable. These are liquid metals, mercury, cesium. Okay. Zinc, again brittle, it will not be malleable. Something that is brittle cannot be beaten into sheets. Okay. So these things are there. So any questions on malleability you can ask. So we'll move on to the next property now. Generally metals are good conductors of heat and electricity. Good conductors of heat and electricity. Okay. So what does it mean, good conductors of heat and electricity? It means they conduct electrical current very well. They conduct uh, heat energy from higher temperature to lower temperature very well. Okay, so this is a property that is generally associated with metals. Like for example, if you want to know copper is a good conductor of heat, aluminum is a good conductor of heat, iron is a good conductor of heat. So anything that you take that you can see as a metal in your house is a good conductor of heat. But yes, there are exceptions. Here also there are exceptions. Exceptions like tungsten. Tungsten is a metal. Tungsten's formula is W. Tungsten. It is not a good conductor of electricity. Tungsten is used as filament in bulb. Filament in bulb. The old bulbs that you used to use, the yellow ones, had tungsten as filament. So as it is not a good conductor, it heats up and glows. Okay, so this is a good your exception. Next, again another exception is mercury. Mercury is not a good conductor. Okay, mercury is not a good conductor. Okay, lead is there, which is also not a good conductor. Lead is in fact the poorest conductor of it in the metals, poorest. Okay, the best conductor is silver. Okay, that is why some people say, some people has the economists have an idea that gold price can come down but silver price should not come down, because silver is something that we use not only in jewelry but also in industry. Okay, due to its various good properties, one of these is good conductor of heat and electricity. Okay, best conductor, you please write silver is the best conductor of electricity. We already know that aluminum and copper are used for wiring, not only for ductility. Definitely they have to be good conductors of heat, sorry, good conductors of electricity. Aluminum and copper must be good conductor of electricity, otherwise you cannot use in wiring. That also you write down.
One second, sir. Sir.
So I can move forward.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Next is metals are lustrous. So lustrous is an English word which means shiny. Okay, metals are lustrous. Okay. So this lustrous means shiny. Lustrous is something that attracts other people. That's it. That is what lustrous means. You will get this word in many places in your life, used in separate types of forms. May not be lustrous, maybe luster, maybe lust, or something like that. Okay. So the basic meaning is something that attracts people. Okay, that you need to remember. ठीक है ना? In Hindi, lustrous means it means that is what do you call shiny in Hindi? I don't know. Anyway, in Bengali it is called chok. ठीक है? So definitely when something is lustrous, when something is lustrous, you can use that for making shiny objects. Shiny objects. So you can use that for making shiny objects. Okay. You can use that. Like, you can take examples, you can take silver, you can take aluminum. Is not that lustrous, but still if you find the actual aluminum metal, it is lustrous, because if you see the aluminum foil, it is lustrous. Okay, but when you see the aluminum what do you say, aluminum containers in your house, which our parents use for cooking, that is not so lustrous. The reason is something else, because aluminum forms a covering of Al2O3 on the surface of the aluminum metal, so that is why it doesn't look lustrous. Otherwise, it is normally it is lustrous. Okay. Next, gold is lustrous. There is that goes without saying. Platinum is lustrous. That also goes without saying. So definitely, when things like this can form some shiny objects, and that is why silver, gold, platinum, which is much more lustrous, what they form, they are used for making jewelry. But does that mean every metal is lustrous? No, there are exceptions here also. So all metals are not lustrous. So I'll list down one exception over here, like zinc is not lustrous. Zinc, you cannot call that lustrous. It's like guro type, so it's not lustrous. Okay. Next is, metals are generally hard. Generally hard. So all metals are generally hard, but it this is quite insane, because many metals are there which are soft, like sodium, potassium. This can be cut by knife. This can be cut by knife. I have already discussed about zinc. Zinc is brittle. Brittle means it just becomes a powder. So you can't call something hard if it just becomes a powder, right? Okay. Next, other than that, mercury. Don't forget it everywhere. Mercury and cesium, this is liquid. So if something is liquid, how can that be hard? It cannot be hard, right? If something is liquid. So definitely this is a very insane property given to metal, because this has so many exceptions. So that's it. Another thing is important, metals have high tensile strength. So this tensile strength means, what is tensile strength? Tensile strength means, suppose there is, this is a bar of iron. If you beat it, then it becomes lengthy, but it doesn't break. It doesn't break. But you take a biscuit, you beat it like this, it will break into two pieces. So that means this doesn't have much tensile strength. Metals, on the other hand, most of the metals do have lot of tensile strength. Even if you beat them, they are going to change their shape, but they are not going to break. So this property is called tensile strength, and they are not going to break. Remember, they can change their shape, but they are not going to break. So that is why this high tensile strength part is used. This property is used for making buildings. So these pillars in buildings, these pillars are there. So there, these rods are tied like this. So these rods, basically these TMT rods, gives the strength to the building. Even if there is lot of wind, these rods can move a little bit, but it will not break. Okay, that is why it is giving high tensile strength to the house at this moment you are sitting in, right? If it would have been something very hard but not having the tensile strength, what would have been the conclusion? It would have broken from here. It would have broken from here. Okay, if it is hard, it cannot withstand any kind of pressure. Okay, see, remember, it is in biology they call it survival of the fittest. So here the fittest person is that who can change their shape according to the condition. So here the condition is windy. If it can move a little bit with the wind, then it will save itself from falling down. Like in uh, the days of too much wind that comes out from the Bay of Bengal to our places, we see a lot of this coconut trees move like a pendulum. You everybody has seen
Yes,
that.
sir.
Okay, but the major fact that they move makes them live. if they could not have moved, they would have broken from the middle. They would have broken from the middle. So this is a tensile strength that they are using. They are moving. Here also the same thing happens. Like suppose I am talking about a bridge. So this is a bridge. Suppose this is a bridge. So a bridge is there. So if lot of weight is put here, then definitely if this bridge remains straight like this only, if this bridge remains straight like this only, then what will happen? At one point of time, see, there is force pushing continuously, it is pushing over here. So what will happen? This is going to break from the middle, because the force is continuously acting over here and this guy is not moving. But if the bridge is like this at first, when you put force, it bends itself like this. It kind of absorbs the force a little bit. You can compare this with the cushion of your bed. Okay, suppose when you have your bed like this without any cushion, just the plywood is there. Normally nowadays beds are having plywoods in the top portion. In the older cases you will find wood, normal wood. So here if you start jumping, then this will break. This will break. You can try it. Don't say I have said it. You can try it. It will break. You start jumping, it will break. Even if a small child starts jumping continuously, this is bound to break, because this is normal plywood. This is not tensile. You put the cushion, then start jumping with that same child. This is not going to break, because this cushion uses its tensile strength to absorb the shock. That is what is required. You have to absorb the shock. In physics you must have studied F is equal to ma, m v minus u by t. So this time is very important. That is what is affecting this cushion. The shock is getting lesser, the force is getting lesser as the time is increasing. Here also in bridge the same thing is happening. It is acting as a cushion by increasing the time of the application of the force. Okay. Next property that we are going to discuss is metals are having high density. Normally metals have high density because normally they are solids. But as we already know, there are metals which have low density, even if they are solid. Even if they are solid, like sodium and potassium has low density. They float over water. Okay, you can write they float over water. Okay. Yes, there is high density also. If you compare iron, it is having very high density, 7,800 kg per meter. If you talk about mercury, that has very high density. So even if it is liquid, it is 13,600 kg per meter cube. It is very dense liquid mercury. Okay. Next is high density mineral. Normally they are solids. Normally they are solids. Metals are normally solids. But we know there are liquid metals. Mercury is liquid metal. We already know, right? Then we have learnt another metal now, cesium. Cesium is liquid metal. So mercury is not the only one which is liquid metal. Cesium is also a liquid metal. Okay, but normally other metals are solid, and uh, thankfully there is no gaseous metal. There is no gaseous. Next, metals are sonorous. What does sonority means? What does sonority mean? Sonority means it can make good sound. It can make good sound. Okay, it makes sound if we strike them. That is sonority, nothing else. So most of the metals make sound. The metals, normal metals that we can see, we talk about steel, that is iron basically. You talk about your brass. Brass means in Bengal it is called pitol. Okay, so বাড়িতে যে পুজো দেয় যে পেতলের ঘটিতে, ওটা ওটা আওয়াজ করে, ঠিক আছে। সো দে আর নর্মালি মেকিং সাউন্ড, ওকে। So they are normally sonorous. There are metals which are not sonorous, like sodium, potassium is not sonorous. You can write as exception: sodium, potassium. Mercury is not sonorous. Okay, zinc is not sonorous. Like this, right? Normally metals are solids because here only I'll extend this because they have high melting and boiling point, high MP, high BP. Okay, that is why they are not gases, and very rarely they are liquids. So non-metals will also have same kind of properties which are quite opposite to the metal, right? So first property we are going to discuss of non-metal is it is malleable or non-malleable. It is non-malleable. Non-metal is non-malleable. These cannot be beaten into sheets. Non-metal is non-malleable. That means if you beat them, it will break into powder or small pieces. Okay, if you beat them, that is going to break into powder or small pieces. Yeah. Next. Next is they are definitely not ductile. So non-ductile. Non-metals are non-ductile. They cannot be drawn into wires. Ductility means they cannot be drawn into wires. Okay. Normally they are bad conductors of heat and electricity. But here there are exceptions. What are the exceptions? Like graphite is a non-metal. Okay. Graphite is a non-metal. So graphite is nothing but an allotrope of carbon, but it is a good conductor of electricity. Okay. Graphite is a good conductor. There's another allotrope of carbon is there, like gas carbon, which is a good conductor of electricity. Okay. But diamond is a bad conductor of electricity. Remember, diamond is a bad conductor. Graphite is a good conductor, but diamond is a bad conductor of electricity. Okay. So normally graphite is used for making graphite and gas carbon both are used for making electrodes in electrolysis and electrochemistry. Okay, here they are used. Next, non-metals are generally non-lustrous, but there is exception here. What is the exception? Iodine is lustrous. Iodine is a non-metal, but it is lustrous. It is shiny. Okay, then diamond, you cannot forget this, right? Diamond is definitely lustrous. Diamond is a basically allotrope of carbon. Okay, allotrope. So you must be knowing that carbon has various kind of allotropes. One is crystalline allotrope, another is amorphous allotrope. Okay, in crystalline allotrope, more normally there are three types of allotropes. One is diamond, one is graphite, another is fullerene. Okay, so we'll study them when we study about carbon. So diamond is also lustrous. Normally non-metals are soft. Normally non-metals are soft, but always they are not soft. Like again, diamond is very hard. So these are exceptions. Diamond is very hard. Okay. and you can write down this is the hardest naturally occurring substance. Hardest naturally occurring substance. Other properties. What about non-metals being solid, liquid, or gas at room temperature? They have all the states at room temperature: solid, liquid, and gas. Okay, so they don't have any separate properties for this. Like solid is carbon is a solid, sulfur is a solid, phosphorus is a solid. So many things are there. Iodine is a solid, liquid, bromine is liquid, gas. Well, they are moving around my nose now. Oxygen, nitrogen. Okay, these are solid. All are non-metals. Okay, next. Definitely, if they are solid, that part, this type of elements will have high melting point. When they are liquid, that means this has low melting point. In this case, the melting point and the boiling point is even lower, O2 and N2. Okay, but in some cases the melting point is very high, very high, very high. That is the cases of like graphite. In some cases melting point is very high. Diamond melting point is very high. Okay, because these are network solids. These are network solids. Network solid means they form giant structure. So later on we will study what is network solids, what is molecular solids, and thereby you can understand why graphite and diamond will have very high melting point. Normally non-metals are not sonorous. Not sonorous. That means they don't make sound if you hit them. Okay, that's it. And normally non-metals density is less. So density is less. This is rho, symbol of density is less. Okay. Okay. Next কিসে আসছি আমরা? Next is metalloids. So in case of metalloids, metalloids means they have properties in between metal and non-metal, or you can say they show some properties of metal and some properties of non-metal. Okay, so we can write this down. Okay, so example is silicon, germanium. So these are basically metalloids. Okay, boron can also be regarded as a metalloid. So these are normally metalloids. So they have both the properties. So this is a classification which was done before the advent of normal periodic table that you see nowadays. So this classification nowadays is discarded. These metals, non-metals, and metalloids, though we use it at various places in chemistry, but this classification is discarded. Okay. Our next topic is we'll go for mixtures now. So what is mixture? See, we have understood about pure substances and impure substances in our earlier class. Pure substances are those which are elements and compounds, and mixture is impure substances. Mixture can be a combination of two elements. it can be a combination of an element and compound, it can be a combination of two compounds. Okay, that is what mixture. So two or more elements or compounds which are not chemically combined. That means we can write this like this way. It's a combination of two or more elements or compounds which are not chemically combined. So how will it look? Like sulfur plus oxygen. If it does not react, because if you don't heat it, it will not react. So it's a mixture. Like nitrogen and oxygen, that is at this moment the air present all over you. It's a mixture because this N2 and O2 is not chemically combined. If they react, become chemically combined, then they are not a mixture. Okay. Like if we talk about solutions, solutions means here there is water, you put some sugar, so this become sugar solution. Does that mean that sugar is reacting with water? No, sugar just got dissolved in water inside the molecular spaces of water. Sugar placed its own molecule. Any solution will be a mixture. It may be heterogeneous, it may be homogeneous, but solution is a mixture. All solutions are mixture. Whether it is salt solution, whether it is sugar solution, it doesn't matter. For us, solution is a mixture. Okay, so you can take any solutions, it doesn't matter to us. Now, as I said, there can be two types of mixture. One is homogeneous mixture, another is heterogeneous mixture. Okay, so we'll do that over here only. Homogeneous mixture and heterogeneous mixture. Now, what is homogeneous mixture? Basically, there is no difference between homogeneous mixture and heterogeneous mixture. The only difference is what you see. In homogeneous mixture, substances are completely mixed. Okay, so that you cannot distinguish from one from the other. Suppose when I mix sugar in water, if they are completely mixed, I cannot distinguish sugar from water. I can see them only as sweet water, right? So if it is indistinguishable, see, any mixture is basically having minimum two components. Minimum two components. Okay, so we can write like this: components mix completely. One is indistinguishable from other. This is homogeneous. Okay, heterogeneous mixture. What should be heterogeneous mixture? Components don't mix completely, remain separate, remain separate. Component one is one component, one is distinguishable from one another. This is heterogeneous mixture. Example, you can write here sugar plus water, sugar plus water. So this is a homogeneous. Sand plus water is a heterogeneous mixture because sand is not going to get dissolved in water. Okay. Then suspension. Suspension means like this emulsion is a one kind of suspension. It's not suspension exactly. Like milk. Milk is not a homogeneous mixture. We'll understand it later. It's basically a heterogeneous mixture. Okay. So don't worry. We'll do all these things: emulsion, salts, and everything. Okay. So there are certain kind of things which are called colloids, which we are going to study in this chapter in detail. Colloids. Any colloid is a heterogeneous mixture. Any colloid is a heterogeneous mixture. So it will be a very important part in this chapter, colloids. Okay. Like colloid means not only your sand and water is also a type of colloid, but what we really mean by colloid is that this milk is a type of colloid. Then fog means this kuasha is a type of colloid. Okay. Okay. Then this your shaving cream is a colloid. Okay. Next, if you put sulfur in water, it becomes colloid. So these are a separate class of mixture which we will study later. Okay. Separate class, completely separate class, because homogeneous mixture basically means solution. Homogeneous mixture basically means solution. You cannot differentiate between two components. Okay. Colloids also by normal eye you cannot differentiate. Okay. You cannot differentiate in colloids. So like milk, you cannot differentiate water and milk separately in milk, the milk we drink. But actually it is a separated mixture. We can do it by other physical method. I can easily separate it by some other physical method. In case of solution also I can do, but in case of colloids the size of the solute particle is more. Okay. So based on that another kind of classification is there.
স্যার সলিড সলিড হলে আবার সলিউশন কি করে হয়ে যাবে
হয়
সেটা?
হয় 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 if solid solution is also possible. Yes. Solid solution, and you guys know it, alloys
তো এটা তো সলিড সলিড মিক্সচার,
is solid solution. Okay.
সলিউশন কি করে হচ্ছে?
Solution, because তাহলে what is the difference between solution and mixture? let's
আহ,
understand let's understand. See, here there are solvent particles. This is solvent particle. Okay. Red colored particles are solvent. Whenever the solute particles gets entrapped in these intermolecular spaces, okay, these molecules are very small so we can't see, so this becomes a solution. And the same thing is a part of mixture, right? So if I take these molecules as solid, and if I take all these molecules as solid, then definitely it will be a solid solution. Over here is normally all the mixture are heterogeneous. Normally all the mixture are heterogeneous. If not, it's a solution or a alloy. If not, it's a solution or a solid solution. That's why alloy I am saying separately, because when we talk about solution, we mean, what do we mean? We mean either liquid plus liquid, or we mean solid plus liquid. We don't really mean solid plus solid. So either it is a normal solution or alloy. So if it is not a solution, basically it is a heterogeneous mixture. Okay. So now we'll move to compounds. So compounds is something that is also a pure substance. So in this case, it's a substance. You can write it is a substance which is made up of which is made up of two or more two or more chemically combined two or more elements chemically combined in a fixed proportion by mass. Okay, so that is what compound is, nothing else. So we have already done this in our law of various proportion, constant proportion, reciprocal proportion. Already done this definition of a compound. So I don't think I have to give separately what is the example of a compound, because you guys already know it. Compound is something where element has combined chemically and where these elements are in a fixed ratio of mass. Okay, that is what compound is. Okay, suppose there is a compound which we can talk about, iron sulfide. It's a very common example of NCERT. Iron sulfide, iron sulfide. And I also do another mixture, that is iron plus sulfur. So this is iron plus sulfur mixture. Okay, one is iron sulfide, another is iron plus sulfur mixture. So the difference between these two can be found out if I take iron sulfide. If you put a magnet over here, it is not going to separate iron from sulfur. But in case if you put a magnet over here, it is going to separate iron from sulfur. So what does this show? This show that this is a compound, this is a mixture. Okay. So you, by magnet you can pull off iron from sulfur because it is not chemically combined. So magnetic force is going to pull up the iron part. But when it's a compound, it's chemically combined and you cannot pull off the iron part from the sulfur. Okay. Other than that, this is a compound, so this will have some fixed, this will have some fixed melting point, boiling point. These things will be fixed. You can't really change it for a compound because it's a pure substance. When you talk about this doesn't have any fixed, no fixed mixture, doesn't have no fixed mpbp mpbp. Okay, you have to remember all these things. Okay. Okay, this is iron sulfide FeS. Okay, I have that written iron pyrites. Okay. So compound, and we also have to remember one thing. If you see this iron plus sulfur mixture, this is definitely a heterogeneous type, right? You can understand that iron and sulfur is mixed together by your normal naked eye, and this is a homogeneous. Here you cannot understand. What you can see is iron sulfide. You cannot see iron and sulfur separately. So this is a major mixture. I have just explained you the basic fundamental between these two. This experiment is there in the syllabus of CBSE board. Okay, this experiment is there in syllabus of CBSE board. So if the means normally in practicals this experiment is included. So now I have done lot of research on mixture and compound. Can I have a differentiation between mixture and compound? So if I can do some differentiation, let's see. Differentiation means difference between mixture and compound. Mixture, compound. So I'll write in short, mixture can be separated by simple physical methods, can be by simple physical methods. What are simple physical methods? It can be evaporation, it can be filtration, it can be using magnetic separation. Okay, this type. So you can write evaporation, sublimation, magnetic separation. There are other processes also like solvent extraction, distillation. These are simple physical processes. But in this case, it is not possible. Simple, it is not possible. You can write down cannot be separated by simple physical methods. Not possible. Okay, you can separate it by chemical methods. Here, what you have to use? Chemical methods. If you have to separate elements from compound, you have to use chemical methods. Okay. Next, a mixture shows the property of its constituents. Okay, so if you see a mixture, suppose iron and sulfur, so iron is a magnetic element. So you put the magnet, iron is showing the property of its magnetism. So that means whatever the constituent is, that those property are not died down when you use it in a mixture. But when you use the same thing in a compound, those property are not there because it has only the property of that compound. Okay, nothing else. So here you can write property of constituent is not lost. Property of constituent is not lost. Here property of constituent is lost. Okay, because there is a new property which is the property of the compound. Okay, next, no fixed MPBP. Here fixed MPBP. Next, energy is usually neither given out or nor absorbed in mixture. When you make a mixture, normally, this is very much, I would say this is normally. Okay, so you can write normally endothermic or exothermic behavior not shown. Here, when you prepare a compound, definitely some chemical reaction is involved, and whenever chemical reaction is involved, there is some interaction of energy. That means maybe the energy of the reactant is more than energy of the product, or energy of the reactant is less than energy of the product. So there is difference in energy. In what? In compound formation, because there is a chemical reaction. If there is a chemical reaction, there will be difference in energy. So you can write usually endothermic or exothermic during preparation, because there is a chemical reaction if you prepare a compound. Next, very important point, composition may vary. Composition in a mixture may vary. Okay, because you can put 10 gram sugar in 100 gram water, it remains sugar water, right? You can also put 20 gram sugar, 100 gram water, it still remains sugar water. In case of compound, composition is fixed, because that is the basic definition of compound we have studied. Substance which is made up of two or more elements chemically combined in a fixed proportion by mass. So composition is fixed. You cannot vary composition in a single compound. Okay, so there goes the difference between mixture and compound. We also know mixture can be homogeneous and heterogeneous. Compound is always homogeneous. Compound is always homogeneous, it cannot be heterogeneous. Okay, but mixture can be both. Okay, people can ask you that why do you consider solution as a mixture? Suppose you take salt solution, you take salt solution, so that means there is water, and here there is salt also. Now you just evaporate it, what will happen? Water is going to evaporate, but salt is not going to be vaporized. So ultimately what will happen? The separation of salt and water happens just by, so if you want to just get the salt, you can just use a simple physical method, which is evaporation, and that will give you salt separate, so your job is done. Okay, now anyone can ask you alloy, why alloy is considered as a mixture? Why alloy is considered as a mixture? So see, if we talk about alloy, its composition can vary. Okay, composition can vary. In alloy, composition can vary. Okay, number one. Number two, you can say that it has properties of both the or the constituents, has properties of of constituents. Okay, it has the properties of the constituents. Like if you talk about brass, brass means what? Copper and zinc. So due to this, zinc is a white kind of metal, so what happens is this shiny color to the brass is given by zinc actually. Okay, and copper gives the strength, the tensile strength is given by copper, because zinc anyways is brittle, is not going to help. That's why you make a mixture of copper and zinc, but copper is not going to remain shiny for long, so keep it shiny, use zinc, keep it strong, use copper, both coming together. Okay, but the composition can vary. So due to this two very important reasons, alloy can be considered as mixture.